So these recordings are audio only?
No, they're video too. But there's just
Okay,
my
good.
screen. It's just my screen. You can see your face.
Right.
You can zoom in on your face if you want.
No, actually, but the fact that I know that you're recording the window with video means that this will be a super simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I can just do a screen share,
Yep.
and huzzah, we have.
If you want, you can even just upload an image if it's a pain in the butt to screen share, and I'll just click it and the audio just won't view it.
That works too. I will do that. That way I have more bandwidth.
Yeah.
Okay. So, we're still in limbo. The Thrive Chieftains Discord server is still in limbo. But not for long. Well, maybe for longer. I don't know. We'll find out. Go to navigate limbo. Maybe. Wait, let me think about that for a moment. I guess phone limbo, welcome. Okay. Yeah. Welcome. Right.
Intro limbo?
Or I could just, I suppose I could send the stuff to you in DMs, and then that way I wouldn't have to figure out the text shenanigans.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll do.
I have an answer to this.
Okay.
Look into it later. Fresnel lens. But
wait.
Not right now.
Oh. Wow, you gave an answer.
There you go. Amplifying light. That's what it's for.
Oh my god. That is a that is a synchronicity and a half. Goosebumps are exciting.
I'm glad when I can hope.
Okay. How long do we have?
As long as you want. There's
oh
no
my gosh.
Upload limit to YouTube.
But is there a time limit before you have to go and do or whatever?
Not really.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So that is so free. That is so liberating. That's like divinely liberating. Oh no, yeah, that's going to be the beginning of the end of stress, as I have not aggressively rejected it in my existence. And I'm going to begin to today. Okay. So, what we're talking about today, I'm going to go full podcast mode on this recording today.
I'll be right back. Please continue.
Okay. So, the note, the page, started out with a little bit of poetic rewriting, and eventually ended up with a title, and the title is. So actually, why don't I just go deep dive and fully flesh out all the details, because this is probably the most important recording that I have done this year. I had been witnessing events, big events, humongous events. Events like the exposure of the deep state, thanks to the courage of our fellow Edward Snowden. And in a double bill, my mom and I actually went and saw Edward Snowden, the dramatic reenactment, in the theater when the movie came out. And after watching that, I wanted to delve deeper into that story. And I discovered that the main documentary journalist who recorded him and was behind the camera on all of the global broadcasts that where Snowden came out to the world and went public with what he had, the content that he had acquired as a whistleblower, and the USB key that he managed to download from the NSA, and he had full systems access because that was part of his job. He was hired by Booz Allen Hamilton to work for the NSA. When he went public, Laura Poitras was one of the reporters and documentary filmmakers who covered his story and was actually there. She was the one that liaisoned with him and met him and was his primary point of contact between herself and the planet's newspaper publications. So The Guardian at the time, and one other group that I don't remember the name of at the moment. And she actually made a documentary of her experience of serving Edward Snowden and the Planet Earth disclosures. That documentary is called Citizen 4. And I've watched it so many times. It's one of the best documentaries that I've ever watched. It should be up for like whatever one is relevant to it, an Emmy, an Oscar, a thingamabobber. Yeah. It's up there. So that was and it goes into a lot of actions performed by world leaders, by Putin, by Trump, by the NSA, by the US administration. Lots of history covered within that documentary film. And then sort of the aftermath for Edward and how he was able to achieve refugee status in Russia, where he lives to this day. And so that was kind of one of the events that I had witnessed as a keyboard warrior. Another event, which is actually where I learned the idea of the term keyboard warrior, from the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, an indigenous reservation in North Dakota, and the fascist and dictatorial elements within the US government, in which the US government defends a corporation from the water protector initiatives, because the Standing Rock Sioux tribe were utterly violated in the most inhumane way, using eminent domain for a corporation to seize land within the unsafe confinement area for a city's water input for the entire city. Men, women, children, the elderly, visitors, the public, the casino, the hospitals, everyone. The entire town's water intake from a tributary of the Mississippi River straight into the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe's water treatment facility. And here, oh my gosh, what a profound chapter in human history. I see that as the Selmont, the US, the North America, basically North America's equivalent of Gandhi on Mount Selmont opposing the Indian Empire. Same parallel.
Yep.
Completely the same parallel.
Yes.
And so I had such enormous you can't really call it a chapter or a charter or a thing. It's bigger. It's so much bigger. It's planetary. It's humanitarian. It's humanistic. Anyway, so here are these giant things that I had been witnessing, and just me trying to make sense of it. And it was with these huge events and multiple viewpoints and completely different settings and contexts to the one that I have always lived in. You know, it rocked my paradigms, sort of.
Yeah. Like, how could we?
And then I don't know if I even questioned it that way. I think that I had seen enough at that point and experienced enough with having an unstable. Like I've been not mainstream for a long time, but what it did do was inspire an illustration, a vision of an illustration. And that is actually what launched the entire project, is this vision of an illustration of a web. So I will actually use a GIF. Because, yeah, there it is. That is perfect. That's exactly the vision. That right there. A web. But the web was massive. And if I knew about something, then I could draw lines between that something and other things. You know, so I know about air travel, so I can understand an international air traffic control hangar, so I can appreciate the experiences of Edward and a representative of WikiLeaks, who was his liaison as a human rights lawyer in an international setting. Because WikiLeaks has a lot of kind of like the legal version of Doctors Without Borders. So Lawyers Without Borders. It's not actually their name, but you know they operate, or there's an international group of lawyers that support the fundamental human rights, and they're actually the ones. And so WikiLeaks kind of attracted all of these human rights inspired humanity the same way the Doctors Without Borders does.
Hold on, rewind. The internet messed up. Say that last sentence again.
They don't call themselves Lawyers Without Borders, but from my preliminary research about them, they kind of operate in the same way as the international charity Doctors Without Borders, who will go into third world countries, for instance, and do emergency surgeries and do crowdfunding for, anyway, so there's a similar contingency of human rights recognizing lawyers who were attracted by WikiLeaks and are part of a greater WikiLeaks collaborative sort of assembly. And so when Edward had delivered everything and was being followed by the media and the US government, who were obviously trying to murder him,
most likely,
he was able to get in touch with a member of this human rights inspired or human rights motivated lawyers that worked cross-border, the same way the Doctors Without Borders does.
Yeah.
And so it was one of their representatives, a woman, who was dispatched to him physically, and she's the one who set up political refugee safe houses, and sort of like the modern equivalent of the Underground Railroad in the U.S., where they had like highway warriors supporting Black Americans trying to live, basically. That was the whole story of the Underground Railroad. Similar idea. Now it's international, and it's lawyers who help humans who want to exercise their human rights in all forms. Anyway, so when I witnessed that, I've been in airports, I understand the environment of an airport, so I can relate to Edward and his legal aid companion as they were trapped for a period of days, sleep deprived, and they had money, both of them, and so they were able to get food but of course, within the airport, they were in international no man's land, that sort of awkward in-between zone between nations, basically. And so they had to camp out in one of those little... That's the one. Yes.
Type of situation.
Yeah. But of course, it's inside of an airport with the 24/7 announcer and the no privacy and the airport food. So it was an inhumane situation at the very, very least.
Where was that again?
But so it was a Russian airport. So basically, the U.S. canceled his passport because he was suddenly an enemy of the state.
Of course.
And so they were basically stranded without without the passport of their citizenship, and it just turned out so he was able to use his passport it was Hong Kong, because he felt like Hong Kong was the safest place. It was extremely difficult and time-consuming for any sort of like international treaty, thing to happen between. So in other words, he chose the place where he felt like he would have the greatest amount of time, and it turned out to be a good thing. But so he had a valid passport when he boarded the plane in Hong Kong. And it was during the transit between Hong Kong and Russia that the paperwork went through for his U.S. passport, so that whenever he landed in the Russian airport where the plane was destined, they scanned it and it was invalid. And he had already connected with the WikiLeaks international human rights lawyer who was his companion. So at least he wasn't alone, and he had a legal aid companion and they kind of had each other for that difficult chapter. But because it was such a, like, obviously the media, and it was a very international situation, and Putin himself traced the situation and monitored it, and just to see what would happen, because he himself at that moment was honoring the international treaty on human rights, and was making his decision as he witnessed things. Wow. Heck yeah. Oh, you're in it. I'm in it too. I love that's beautiful. I feel like that's me. The eyeball.
Kinda. You are what you see in it. That's most art, really.
Beautiful.
Sorry.
Okay, we're laying the groundwork. So back to the web. So there in my head I had, and of course, so Citizen 4 goes into greater detail and documentary and commentary and footage and illustration and all the rest of it. So they go into great detail. Like she goes into great detail documenting the whole aftermath and everything since. But so there they were. And here I was witnessing all these events in real time, and then going in the aftermath to the internet and to see what I could dig up in terms of content. And so an example of an intersection in my web, as I perceived these events and the world and myself, as all of the setting that I brought to what I was seeing, and all the memories and experiences in my mind. And so there's a thread. So the knowledge of an airport and how they function, and the knowledge that Edward Snowden had recently gone through an airport and had obviously different experiences. But these points of commonality are the intersections. And obviously as a trilingual, I have intersections of commonality between myself and any French-speaking country in the world, or any Hungarian-speaking country in the world, or any Romance language in the world, because I carry two, French and English, and then the Roman Empire did touch Hungary. And I grew up with Latin and Spanish and Italian books. My grandfather was fluent in Italian. He lived because he was incarcerated into a Russian gulag / work camp, but he spoke fluent Hungarian, French, Italian, and one other language, which enabled him to be of worth as an inmate within that establishment, that then he wasn't tortured quite as badly, and he was kept a little bit healthier than his colleagues in the same camp, because he was able to serve as like translator. You know, he had street cred. And so as I was wrestling with relating to all of these events and peoples and things, intersections between myself and the rest of the world, these visions served to strengthen the metaphor of the web. But then it occurred to me that that if I covered the entire night sky with this illustration in like the green and black web, if that illustration not moving, it's an animation obviously, but if it were not moving and it were just a static illustration, and I covered the entire sky in tiny versions of that, then it would be like a puzzle. So, oh, there you go. Yeah, you're sharing cool stuff. Nice. So I love Discord. Tenor. Puzzle. Brilliant. Okay. So, let's see. Puzzle. Let's get a really good one.
There you go. The best.
Interesting. Well,
I see, said the blind man as he picked up his hammer and saw. This particular feng shui pattern is based on a northerly hemisphere. Can you guess how and why?
no, because I'm not. I'm in different groups.
Don't worry about it. We're in a different group. Don't worry a thing. We'll talk about that later.
Okay. I need jig, saw, puzzle.
I can't show you that yet.
No.
It's too heavy.
Later. Yeah, no, I'm writing a momentum, so it's very difficult to, or rather it would be unsafe to push a different energy in there. I'm like literally manifesting a brain structure as I navigate the jet stream, basically. I become the jet stream of the knowledge that I call.
That might help.
Type that word into the chat.
COSMOGENY. I think. Nope.
There we go.
It's GEN.
That is so meta.
GONY.
That's the one. You centered the stars aligned, the constellation aligned. We found our jigsaw reference. There we go. That's the best one right there. So if you could just pause it at a certain point, then the stuff that I know that I didn't know anything about would be, it could be either. It could be the white in the background, or it could be the illustration on the puzzle pieces. That's the fun thing about using an illustration and a web and a puzzle as symbols. The what can occupy any part of the sort of symbolic lineage or patternage or geometric reality. It's adaptive. How symbolism is adaptive. That's the short statement. And so there I was with a bunch of puzzle pieces, including myself, because I'm myself in a puzzle piece. And everyone on the world is a puzzle piece. And the stuff that I don't know is the white gaps where the puzzle is incomplete. And it's still true 3 years later. There are still gaps in the ginormous puzzle. Mm-hmm. That has a cartoon illustrated web printed onto it. However, I knew that it was super easy. I had the internet, I had the knowledge, I had programs, I had so many things that allowed me to go on a search. And so that is the that is the backstory. That is the introduction. We have the introduction down, and we move on to the main first chapter. When I first envisioned the web in a symbolic way, another inspiration popped out from the considerations and explorations and thought experimentations. And that was the Rosetta Stone, which is the sole reason why we can read ancient Egyptian, ancient Greek, and some third language that I never managed to remember. But I will next time. 3 languages, 3 continents, 3 alphabets on one Roman roadstone. It still exists. It's in a museum somewhere. And so I knew that Rosetta, as almost like an angel or like an ascended master, I think Rosetta was the name of the city, or the city of Rosetta was near where it was found. And I don't know the history of that city, but you know, obviously that city has an ancient connection to the Roman Empire and all of its actions. So I knew as a symbolic, almost like a fairy or a guardian angel or a muse, like the Greek muse, you know, I knew that Rosetta would be part of the project, and it's been a love-hate relationship as to how I would include her in, but we finally found her. She has emerged, she has given birth, she is the mother, she's the guiding deity of the project. And she has so called it Rosetta. And I've reworked poetically her name quite a bit. So you can respell Rosetta as Rosie ETA. Mm-hmm. Almost like an ETA, a timeout, a wait a minute. Because all of this dark web and not ecological and extraterrestrial and humanitarian and enlightenment and planet Earth and Palladian and everything, it's like, wait a minute, ETA that! So, and of course, Rosie, ETA, short for Rosetta.
ETA is giving us the time of when it will arrive.
estimated time of arrival, but it's talking about time, and it's also talking about just checking in, taking a moment, just evaluating.
Yeah, that could also go along the lines with how we are psionic. We could use our psionics to then slow time.
Yeah.
I've
True. Yeah. To give a pause, to give a buffer, to give a bit of breathing room. The waiting room in the doctor's office. Brilliant. Wow. So Rosietta kind of sounds like we got a family going. We have Rosetta, Rose, and Rosietta. Man, it sounds like triple, twins, triplicates, something of that nature. It's all part of the same family. Triplets. That's the one. Yeah. So Rosietta's in there now. And I will write it the way that I wrote it in my notebook this morning. Rosietta's Omega Web Mandala Index. There it is. And in the acronym, it spells Rome. As in roaming, as in wandering, as in exploring. But ironically, it also references Rome, the Roman Empire. But Romy has deeper because Rome, the one. And it comes back to the one, me. Or you, the one.
Yeah.
And we won't go into that rabbit hole just yet. That's a rabbit hole for another day. Today, the acronym has been birthed. I like Rome because the acronym itself is a symbol. And it's easy to speak. It's like Declaration of Human Rights. It's easy. It rolls off the tongue. Or Magna Carta, or the Constitution, the U.S. Constitution. So it's like it's up there and it works. I feel fear. This is a moment where I can actually express in real life with a real human to a real audio recording the courage. The courage that's been singing its song in my heart. And I'm going to actually hold my heart at this moment because something powerful is about to happen. We fly together. Okay. I cannot send it to you now that I think about it, so I may actually have to do screen share. And I think I'm going to I'm going to edit this channel, but only 2 people can be in here, because there have been people that have been in here that have been trying to shove their way into things. Not so good. And we want a clean recording, not have some intrusions. Okay. Let's see here. User limit. Perfect. Limits the number of users that can connect to this voice chat. Perfect. 2. Oh, good. Okay. 2 users. No, that not quite like that. Come on. There we go. Got it. Save. And now there's 2. And there can only be 2. Perfect. Awesome. Now, screen share time. Wow. I'm actually like physically witnessing fear. Just straight up fear. There's archangels with us now. Okay. Opera. There we go. I'm gonna drop the frame rate and go live. There we go. Boop. There we go. Okay. Of course. Oh boy, that is definitely stretching the limits. You're seeing the laptop struggling.
Wait. The join stream. There we go.
Well, that's cool. Divine synchronicity is helping us right now. All right. There we go. Now.
I feel
What?
I just feel that.
What do you feel?
Every day.
Same. But I'm the eye of the storm conducting the hurricane.
Yeah, dude.
So I have a slightly different vibrational vantage point.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I may need to swap instead of using yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm gonna
Close stream?
No. Just give me a sec. We're gonna go with that one instead. There we go.
Do your thing. Take your time.
Thank you. There we go. So, oh gosh. Okay. Now close that. There we go. That'll help a lot. No browsers. Will it? Yes, it will. Perfect. I'm like looking into the gate of my own my own existence. I'm actually sort of there, looking in a. Hang on, I need to. But I must feel it, all of it. Okay, how is the feed? Is it screen sharing a?
It's showing the complex symbol you have there.
Mm-hmm. Good.
How many triangles is that?
Too many to count.
Yeah, you good.
It would be in the hundreds. You don't see it because there's no contrast. But I don't know when I first envisioned illustrating the web. And later on, I had an insight that there were categories that things could belong to. So, for instance, and I wanted to distill everything in a universal way. So, you know, when I researched, you know, say like the periodic table, but it went deeper than that. So when I would read the Declaration of Human Rights, right to travel, right to assemble, right to have a right to have a tribunal of peers, right to, you know, right to nourishment, or etc., 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 all those things. But then I thought, well, so there they talk about for the human. And then I discovered the gentleman Maxwell Neef, who postulated that for just like a salmon cannot become pregnant and raise children in the broad ocean. So like the Pacific wild salmon, the mother salmon cannot become pregnant and bear a child with all the shrimp, you know, with all the fish and the sharks and the this and the that, you know, so that event of the salmon procreating demands that the salmon be in an environment that is suited for that. And so obviously that expects the migration and the river and the going to shallower waters, etc. and so forth. And while there are still predators, there's a hell of a lot less than the open Pacific Ocean. And in the same way, Maxwell Neef postulates that a human cannot have a particular context without a whole set of other contexts in place first. You know, a hunter-gatherer warring tribe with spears going to attack another village that excludes or rejects the potential of say a predictable food source or a predictable habitation or a predictable connectivity. You know, someone in solitary confinement in jail, at that moment, within that group of heartbeat, which is the pulse part of the acronym, Rosetta's Omega Web Mandala Index is the pattern that you see before you, and it talks about, and it is the precursor to the Pulsing Web Project. And that is basically what the Pulsing Web Project is. It is an evaluation at the fundamental. And so the fundamental of a human is a heartbeat. First, if the fertilized egg cannot create the environment of a heartbeat, then the brain and the lungs are there's a condition and a cessation or a rejection or a hold on, I need to the thesaurus in this case, although I don't have this. Never mind. Okay, the rejection. Hold on. Well, I guess the word condition there. So having a disruption in the fetus while the heart is developing places a condition against lungs and a brain, because the lungs and the brain require the heart to A, grow, and B, maintain the sort of relationship between those four organs. And obviously when a mother ingests some kind of toxin or even alcohol, which is toxic to the fetus, then so there's a bunch of circumstances that where the toxin is brought into the womb, and so that is one of the biggest problems for a lot of premature babies, is the lung growth, which happens much later in the trimesters. And if so, some external event disrupts the womb side development of the lung, then the baby and the medical team basically have to very vulnerably create an environment, because no heart, no lung, no life. Which means all human interaction, and obviously when you have heart failure, you have a very short, the paramedic has a very short passport, or rather the body has a very short passport upon heart failure, because the heart failure leads to the lung no longer being able to deliver the oxygen, and obviously the greatest cause of brain damage for a stopped heart is oxygen deprivation, which causes brain damage. So, for all human interactions on the entire planet, all 8 billion human beings, to participate in anything requires a functioning heartbeat, functioning lung capacity, and functioning brain matter. And all three, so all political activities, all social activities, all economic activities, all institutional activities, all muscle activities, all coordinated activities, all intellectual activities, everything demands a functioning heartbeat, a functioning lung capacity, and a functioning cranium. And a bunch of other things, obviously. But those are the easiest and the simplest and the most fundamental. And those will be the ones that I will be referencing going forward. Because obviously, all the other organs are part of the nutrition and the, basically the energy delivery system for all those other things. But, for most of the other organs, you can exist unassisted, or you can live unassisted with most of the other, you can live assisted for most of the other organs. But if those 3 fundamental ones are non-functioning, then that's pretty much the end of it. And you're not going to engage in any sort of social endeavor or ingestive endeavor or sensory endeavor without those 3 fundamental organs. Right. So, this brings us back to Max Neef, and so his idea or his philosophy postulated that it's like a series of fundamental expectations, and that the lower ones are required before the upper ones can even be considered. So what I want you to do now, because my computer is slow and struggles, can you open a web browser, please?
Already there. What's up?
What do you need?
A browser search, and you want to type in Max Neef fundamentals.
NEEF.
FU yes, Max Neef, NEF, correct.
Fundamental human needs.
That's the one. Is it a wiki page?
Not yet, but it is now.
The Wikipedia page with the fundamentals at the top is the best one. And you want to scroll down until you find the chart. You can tell how much I've looked at this photo. I can guide you there from memory. That chart is the best. It's epic. Leisure, or subsistence, participation, leisure, etc. You guys are seeing it. I don't have all. I haven't memorized all of them, but I can get a pretty good sense from what I've looked at before.
Protection, affection, understanding, participation, idleness, creation, identity, freedom.
Correct. Now these are pretty signatured, or they're contained, or they're part of those. There's another gentleman, now that I think about it, there was a commentator on U.S. policy, and he wrote a book called Manufacturing Consent.
I've heard of this.
Do you know the author?
I've probably watched an interview of him.
Yeah. So that whole idea, we'll get back to in a moment.
Yeah.
Back to Max Neef. I agree with Max that although I'm pretty dogmatic and have been stretching the limits on doing the upper while living in an inhumane. So my subsistence is not secure. Neither is my dwelling, the dwelling that I live in. Neither is transportation, which is part of participation.
Mm-hmm.
But while I've been sort of holed up here in you know, a human rights, how long? Almost a year.
Well, can you explain your situation a little bit? Real quick, just a summary.
Sure. So I am registered disabled with the Canadian government. My diagnoses include Tourette syndrome, obsessive compulsive disorder, high functioning autistic, and executive functioning disorder.
Okay.
There's also some not specifically diagnosed, but what they call comorbid interrelated for sensory sensitivity. And as such, with this cocktail of attributes, I was able to get a poverty wage with the Canadian government. I live in the province of Ontario, which is the equivalent of a state in the US.
Yeah.
And since I received ODSP, Ontario Disability Support Plan, which is basically a monthly fixed income, I have lived as an alleged dependent on my family, which worked out fine while I was living in a town called Cornwall, not to be confused with the British Cornwall.
Right.
Same name, different country, different continent.
Right.
While I was living there, it was actually the best chapter of my life from a residential standpoint. I could use the insane muscular strength that I have in my legs from biking and being a traveler and walking great distances and being a cyclist. So my fitness level is max.
I'm right there.
And so while I was living in Cornwall, I could actually use that to my advantage and personally travel to visit the places that are considered to be part of the subsistence arm of the Max Neef hierarchy of needs.
Okay. Sorry.
Now, my mom became very different in the last couple of years it was like a personality change. Though I think part of it was to do with the fact that I was prioritizing my academic and spiritual pursuits while trying to explore the systems that disrupted my physical functioning. And this included a severe unpredictability in my nervous system, a severe psychic unpredictability to where external events would have a disruptive effect on my coordination and mental and emotional coordination. It really, I really was able to observe a juxtaposition as things cycled day to day, heartbeat to heartbeat, lung pulse to lung pulse, and everything else that followed from there.
Yeah.
And so on the outside, it appeared like I was neglectful and addicted and not fulfilling the expectations of society or the household. And I think that caused an abandonment pattern, combined with a small business that my mom's been developing to run a bookstore.
Of course.
And so there were times when I felt like the bookstore was prioritized over the subsistence parts of my experience. And we had a very difficult, and she hated that house. She hated it. She rejected it wholeheartedly. And under the Canadian laws, of course, she was the one paying the mortgage. She was the one who did all the things, from the sort of mainstream standpoint. But energetically, the house was where I spent most of my time. It was basically, for me, it felt like the same way people might regard the lifetime of a prophet, so like Rami, the Indian mystic, people like to visit in a pilgrimage sort of way the places of his life, or speculating where Yeshua might have lived and visiting places like that. These sorts of signaturized locations where incredible energies move, and the connecting of a single human who goes through a very profound multi-contextual experience, connecting with themselves, studying themselves, connecting with the world, studying the world, and the pulse between the two. When worlds collide, and that place has an imprint, a very profound imprint. And some of it is inhumane, and some of it is very humane and very heavenly.
I'm sorry, I'm over here just gnawing off my fingernails listening to all this, and I'm very nervous about
Tug, welcome to my world. You're the first to hear it in full.
Well, I've experienced that family story. Well, they didn't have the business per se, but
yeah. There. Okay, I'm in a flow. Let me continue.
Go ahead, continue, please.
Yeah.
What can I do?
Put a pin on it. We'll come back to it. So So, so there we were, and so that was where applying the hierarchy of needs. But then, while I considered all of the politicisms of the word needs, or the word humane, or the word inhumane, or the word political refugee, or the word whistleblower, or the word whatever title or word could be applied to humans like Laura Poitras or Edward Snowden or Gandhi or Martin Luther King or anyone, everywhere.
Yeah.
And I thought, dang. And then I realized that one of the biggest things going on is the divisiveness, dividing, segregating, conditioning, putting a condition on, against. Within the Declaration of Human Rights, there's several phrases like that. Freedom to, I'm actually going to write this down because it's probably one of the most important things. Freedom to, freedom from, and then the third, which doesn't seem to really have a specific line there, I need to reference it. I actually have a physical poster of the Declaration of Human Rights in my location, so I will come back to it later. But for now, those two are quite important. And so there was another, and obviously I had the web and the puzzle and the mandala. And so what I thought of doing was thinking, okay, so obviously the Max Neave hierarchy of needs and the Declaration of Human Rights. So obviously the Declaration is more of a specific broad, it's like a broad thing relating to how humans treat each other. But freedom to have a passport, for instance, talks to Max Neave's participation. And he talks about participation in having a citizenship, or or like when a criminal against humanity does noise warfare or any of the sort, then they're and so in every situation there's the duality, or there's the comparative. And it was evolving. And it was hard, because what I basically wanted to do was primary principle the heck out of everything in a way that I could put it all into the same web, because they're all the same humans, relating in all the same ways, interacting with all the same nervous systems, like my own, eating from the same sort of elemental blueprint into the same deoxyribonucleic structures. So, because there's only really one human race. We're Homo sapien sapien. That is our thing, and that's why Homo sapien sapiens, no matter where they are on the planet, they can procreate with each other. And I really wonder if 100% of all Homo sapiens sapien successfully gave birth to Neanderthal. Obviously, they were close enough, in common ancestry, but still, it's like interesting.
If you saw my eyebrow structure, you go.
Maybe one day I will.
I mean, give me a second. Let me.
No. Let's not. Let's keep it on. Yeah. And so here we are, for the first time. We're in uncharted waters now, telling the story. Rosetta's telling her story, and I feel like a passenger right now. The fear is at least diminishing, so I'm glad for that. So, yeah, back to the Rome. We're roaming with Rosetta. Okay. So now I'm actually going to go full screen share. There we go. Okay. Change window. Perfect. And we're narrowing in. We're going in reverse. There we go. Okay. So it took time. And one of the greatest humans and his work that helped fabricate really the Rome was Adam Apollo. And he basically proposed to look at human systems throughout history the same way the Indian Ayurvedic tradition, or the Hindu, I don't know the name of it, but the Hindu tradition of the chakras. And he actually considers applying the chakras to history and cultures and civilizations and even institutions. And I thought, what a cool concept. But as I was unpacking the idea of chakras, because the chakras actually align quite nicely with the Max Neef hierarchy of needs. Root chakra, subsistence, leisure and participation, the central chakras, heart and solar plexus, participation, the throat chakra, and then the intellectual and transcendent as the pineal and the crown chakras. And in fact, there are a lot of artists who will actually using the rainbow spectrum relate the chakra colors as illustrated in various global systems of teaching. So the root of the red, and then you go up and up with the orange and the yellow, and then heart is green. The earth, going back to the fetus, and then up into, and it is actually quite challenging for a plant to produce. There's a lot of green flowers, white flowers, yellow flowers, red flowers, orange flowers, but there's a dramatic drop-off on the number of blue flowers and purple ones. And obviously within the chaotic energies, you get the gamma rays and all those. So it takes quite a lot of technology and input to produce the violet ray and the blue ray, which the sun gives out freely, infinitely, for eons. And those are the two main colors that plants actually use to photosynthesize. And that's why we see the green, is because the flower doesn't need as much of the green wavelength, and then none of the red and the orange. Although at the end of the red, you get the infrared, which is the heat. And so it actually can be applied in a symbolic sense, but also in a fractal, where the smaller units of an idea formulate the larger symbologies at the other scales and in the other contexts. So that's pretty much been my main objective the last number of years, is to accumulate different systems of understanding or relating to, and that's why I use the word pulse, because the pulse, so a household requires a pulse, just like a heart system, or just like a heart-centered organ system, the main one. And then from there, so like it's applicable. And that was a long journey, is of thinking of, for instance, thinking of applying the Max Neef needs to a planet, or to a household, or to a neighborhood, or to an institution. And I don't, it's not in my thinking memory, actually. The way that I'm re-experiencing in this moment is more of, it's in muscle memory. And that was my plan from the beginning, was to find the things, do like shamanic observation with each thing, each element, each codex, each doctrine, each document, and all documents. And that brings us back to the initial metaphor that I was thinking of. The metaphor of using the metaphor of contemplating something so that it becomes part of the body, and then coming back to it, and then using the intellect and the language and the logic to bring the whole thing together.
Okay.
And so, yeah. We're not quite done.
Right.
Okay. So, right. Okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. There it is. That's the next part. I got it. This is good.
1 second. I need to eat some leeks.
Ooh, that's a good plan. Okay, let's, maybe, well, I need to, I baked something, it's sitting in, I actually think that like this actually would make a good spot for an intermission.
Okay, so should I stop it as a whole video then?
Yeah.
Okay.
and we will both go and grab food, take a little break, and then come back to it in a minute or two.
Any ending notes?
I'm going to... No, I'm not going to speak. Right. Trauma. Okay. Yes. I'm just going to write a note. Trauma.
Whole note.
Nutrition.
64th of a note. 3.5 notes. Your whole note.
You're right. Okay. Trauma, nutrition, development, development, and nurse.
Same trick Magic the Gathering. He kept getting his memory wiped and then finding a journal and then like, oh shit. Okay.
Well, I'm not actually like it. The content is gone as soon as, like, it's kind of like I'm a faucet.
Yeah.
And the faucet draws art as it goes through the tap. Okay. So development, right, and then nutrition, neurochemistry, chemistry. There we go. That's the way. Perfect. Yep, no, that's good. That does it. Hit the pause button. And we will get food.